Bruce is going to be capturing all the questions via chat. So as you guys have questions, just send it through the chat box, and then Bruce will consolidate. And then towards the end, what we can do is we can have those questions opened up for any of the speakers to provide comments on that. So let's go ahead and dive in here. So thanks so much for joining. We're really excited. This is the best we can do based on the circumstances. So we really appreciate you guys taking your time out of your evening to join us. Just to get started, obviously, this is a joint meeting. First time we've done it with the Oconee River chapter of Trout Unlimited and UCCTU. We've got the president of the Oconee River chapter, Danny Jackson. And so we'll get this thing started here. And one thing I wanted to really start off with is our mission. So our mission at TU is to conserve, protect, and restore cold water fisheries in their watersheds. And, we hope that, this project really does restore not only the tributary, but also helps be a catalyst for the whole Chattahoochee River for clean water and for future generations. So as Danny mentioned, the lines are muted. Send a question over to Bruce if you need to. And really the purpose of this meeting is to provide an update on the Crayfish Creek project, which the project is located on a tributary on the Chattahoochee River near the Highway 20 bridge, and it's on National Park Service land. And we couldn't have done this project and gotten to this point without any of our partners. And I want to highlight that our partners on this project are not only, the key stakeholders, but also just everyone that's on this phone call, TU members, community members. And so, this thing is open to the public, and we always want to encourage that. Key stakeholders on the project include the Georgia DNR, Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, Chattahoochee National Park Conservancy, National Park Service, River Through Atlanta, Georgia Council of Trout Unlimited, the Oconee River Chapter, UCCTU, TU National, and the University of Georgia, Five Rivers. So again, we really appreciate all you guys' support. And so tonight, what we wanted to do is we wanted to introduce some of our key stakeholders and let them basically give an update. So from Georgia DNR, we've got Hunter Roop, who's a senior fisheries biologist, and Sarah Baker, who's a trout biologist. From Riverkeeper, we have the Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, Jason Olseth, and Jess Sterling, who's a technical programs director. From the University of Georgia, we've got Dr. Jay Shelton, a Warnell fisheries professor, Dr. John Calabria, College of Environmental Design professor, and Emily Rogers, who's a UGA Five Rivers conservation chair, as well as she's a student of the College of Environmental Design. And this isn't public, but it's now public. She's going to be our 2020 TU summer intern for the Crayfish Creek project. So we're really excited about that, and happy that Emily is joining our team this summer to really help out and move this project forward with some momentum. So, and then lastly, from National Park Service, we've got Annie Couch, who's a CRNRA hydrologist. So what we plan to do is go through each of those key stakeholders and let them give an update on where they are with their focus on the project. And then what we plan to do is just open it up to questions. So before we get to the speakers, I'm going to turn it over to Danny, and Danny's going to provide an update related to the project. So he's got some slides. So once he pulls it up, just let us know if you can all see the screen.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to, you guys can hear me, I'm assuming. Just wanted to take a second and introduce. Can people hear me? I guess Connor, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay. So just wanted to say hi to everyone. I see there's a lot of people out here that may not know me. I'm the president of the Oconee River chapter. So just wanted to, say hi. This has been a great collaboration. I really wish we could meet in person, but this is kind of the best thing we can do right now. These crazy circumstances kind of remind us what all is important. And you know, we have a lot of progress. The last few months, we've been able to, even throughout the coronavirus, we've been able to accomplish a lot. And so we've got some great updates tonight for you, some great partners that are going to share some information. But before we do that, there's also some other important events that are taking place right now, and we need to make sure that we recognize those. And so Jim Harvey from the Upper Chattahoochee actually has a special presentation. So Jim, if you'll go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you. Connor, we've got a short presentation. Many of you in the audience know that Connor will be relocating to Charlotte in June, and unfortunately for us, we'll have to relinquish his post as president of our chapter. We hate to see him go. During his tenure, Connor's greatly expanded the scope of UCCTU's activities to preserve our cold water fisheries. And we don't have time to go through all of his achievements, but a few of them include tapping into Embrace the Stream program to start the Crayfish Creek project, which is by far the largest project we've ever undertaken. Initiated the Clean Water program, which has been expanded nationally. Oversaw the growth of trout in a classroom to 18 participating schools, which is just mind-boggling considering it started at 3 not too long ago. And for all this, he helped our chapter earn the Gold Trout Award from TU National and from the Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, the River Steward Award. So in recognition of his leadership and contributions to our chapter, we would like to present to you a couple things which hopefully are coming in the door there. We have an Orvis Recon 6-weight.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Harper. All right, Harper. Here's Harper.
Yeah, we have a
snuck this one in here, Jim.
Yeah. With the help of Shanna, we have an Orvis Recon 6-weight, courtesy of Outfitters and Gary Herber, who added the UCC program, and also a beautiful plaque with a picture of Chris Wood presenting you with the Gold Trout Award, and a personal letter to you from Chris Wood congratulating you for all your accomplishments.
Awesome.
So Connor, we thank you for all you've done for our chapter and for cold water fisheries. We wish you and your family all the best in Charlotte.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'll still be involved in the project, so I won't be going too far, but I won't be president. So thanks so much. It really means a lot. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. That was great. It's just really, really important to honor Connor for all his work, setting up this project, collaborating, you know, getting this started, and all the things he's done for the Upper Chattahoochee chapter. So it took a little coordinating getting this surprise announcement worked out. So that's why things have been a little bit chaotic. But you know, now we're on to talking about the project. And Hunter, you'll definitely be missed, but you'll still be a part of this.
And thanks to Shanna for helping set this up, the surprise.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, all right. So now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to share my screen. And we're going to go through just a few slides real quick and talk about what this project is, because I know there's a lot of people on this call that may not really be familiar with how this project came about and kind of where we are. So this is open to the public, so we're hoping that more people will take part and tune in. I've got my slide up, and you can see all the really important partners that we have in this project that have all come together to really make this a huge a huge success so far. So we're really excited about the collaboration, and we hope, as our brand new logo shows, Crayfish Creek is only the beginning. The Embrace the Stream project was only the beginning. We're hoping to expand this project and use it as a template and push it beyond this Crayfish Creek and restore the entire Chattahoochee one tributary at a time. So that being said, I'll go to the next slide. So a little bit of background about the project in case you guys aren't familiar. So Crayfish Creek, last summer we had conversations with the National Park Service, and Crayfish Creek was identified as a heavily impaired stream that was that was contributing to poor water quality on the Chattahoochee. So it's a, as you can see, the stream banks are eroding. We've got some really large culverts that are impeding the flow of water. There's just a lot of things that are going wrong in this stream. UC Upper Chattahoochee chapter and Oconee River chapter came together and said, we want to work together. We contributed funds and volunteer support for this project. And another very important stakeholder or partner in this from the beginning is UGA Five Rivers chapter, which has been fantastic. They've been a part of this from the beginning and have contributed volunteers and support all the way through. So Georgia Council then provided some matching funds to support this project. We worked together to submit a Embrace the Stream grant through Trout Unlimited National, which we were awarded, and that provided $7,000 to really kind of make this project a real thing. So before that, it was just kind of thoughts, and that made it a substantial task. And then what was even more amazing was a couple of weeks later when we had the 1 week Embrace the Stream challenge, and we raised $23,000 during that 1 week. And that's thanks to the collaborative effort of this group and all of our many partners. And that set a record for the Embrace the Stream challenge. And it really kind of set us up to where we are here. Since then, we haven't really let down on trying to expand the mission of this grant or this project. We've submitted a 5-star grant, which is through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. It's a competitive grant, but looking at the proposals and looking at what they're looking for, our project fits right in line with what they're asking for. So we feel really good about it. We should hear back in August on whether or not we receive funding for the 5-star grant. And that was a pretty substantial grant, so hopefully it'll allow us to expand our mission. Very recently, just a few weeks ago, the Chattahoochee Riverlands project was kind of finalized. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, what the Chattahoochee Riverlands project is basically it's a strategic plan to incorporate greenways and visitor centers and recreation along the Chattahoochee River. It's a really widespread, very long-term plan. And we were invited to be included as part of that master plan for the Chattahoochee River. And Crayfish Creek is going to be one of the demonstration sites to show how do we get funds to solve these local issues and create more recreation and conservation activities. And then finally, something that happened very, very recently, Emily Rogers, who is a University of Georgia Five Rivers student and undergrad that Connor already mentioned, we've actually hired her as a summer intern. You're going to hear a lot more from Emily later tonight. She's going to be presenting a few slides about her design. She's been doing a class project, a student project, where she's been doing all the design work for this. And it's a really important process to try to get for us to submit our application for the 404 permit to allow us to do this restoration work. So Emily's been a big part of that process, and she's going to kind of take us from that planning phase and the design phase into and she's going to get us into the implementation phase and start actually putting boots on the ground. So we're really, really excited about that, and we're happy to have Emily continue on and continue the great work she's been doing. I know most of the people on this call already know where Crayfish Creek is. They've probably already been there. But for those of you who may not have been to the site before, it's located 3 miles south of Buford Dam. So Lake Lanier, Buford Dam, into the Chattahoochee tailwater. Crayfish Creek comes out just south of Highway 20. And you can see on the map on the right, you can actually see the outline of the stream in white and where it comes into the confluence of the Crayfish Creek. And you can see some of the projects we're planning to do is remove the abandoned culvert, and then the picture beside it shows the eroded stream bank and then all the invasive species that are on the shore right there. So there's a lot to do. This whole section of the stream isn't super long. It's maybe a quarter of a mile or something like that. But there's a lot of work that still needs to get done in that area. So again, some of the structures we're talking about are eroded stream banks, which we're gonna use some bioengineering techniques, which here's a demonstration of one of those beside the stream bank that we're planning to work on. And Emily's going to have some more design stuff for us later. But anyway, just wanted to kind of give everyone an update on the background of the project and where we are, and just let you know that this is a large collaborative project that we're really excited about, but it goes well beyond Crayfish Creek and hopefully can expand down the Chattahoochee. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Connor to introduce our first speaker.
Yep. Thanks so much, Danny. And just to add to what Danny mentioned, this is just something small on the Chattahoochee River. We can't fix the whole river, but the idea is if we can do something small and we can do it really well, I think that's really what we're looking at. And Danny, you've mentioned this a lot in the past. Let's do a really, really good job. And this would be almost a demonstration for future restoration work on the Chattahoochee River. Then I think we can make a big impact for not only our generation, but for future generations, for clean water that would support, great spawning habitats for trout, but also, all the aquatic species and all the folks that benefit from the Chattahoochee River. And so, it's something we've poured a lot of time and effort into. So we're really excited, and we're really excited about our partners. So the first folks that we're going to introduce, so Hunter and Sarah from Georgia DNR, they've been along the journey the whole way. And Hunter and Sarah, I'll open it up to you guys, and I'll just tee it up with one, a few things that have happened in the past. One is the March 7th workday, which is right before kind of Corona hit. So we got a good opportunity to get a bunch of folks there. So maybe give an overview of the workday, but then also maybe some of the discoveries that we found as part of that workday and as part of that sampling that we did within the creek.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Connor. Let's see. Well, first I'd like to say, it's been great working with you, and I hate to see you leaving, but congratulations on what's clearly a good opportunity for you. So you'll be missed by everybody involved in the project, but I'm sure someone's going to pick up the reins and keep it going with the same momentum you've kept it going with. So we got together on March 7th for a DNR workday, and our goal in doing that was basically just start to describe from a biological standpoint what organisms are using Crayfish Creek and the Chattahoochee River around the creek as habitat. So because we do limited standardized sampling on the Chattahoochee River on the Lanier tailwater, that sort of section of river, and certainly the tributary, is not something we would normally really investigate. So that was kind of our contribution to the project. And one way is let's gather some biological data and try to tie that into how the stream is functioning as a whole, and understand what organisms again are using the stream. So we did some electrofishing in the tailwater in the river right around Crayfish Creek, and we did a backpack electrofishing within Crayfish Creek, and then Jay Shelton did some macroinvertebrate sampling as well. So unfortunately on that day, we had a 2-unit generation coming out of Beaufort Dam, and so the conditions weren't really ideal to be sampling, and but we did it nonetheless. And so if I can, I'll share my screen and just give you guys a little bit of a taste for what information we were able to collect that day. If I can figure out how to do this.
Yeah, you should be able to now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How is that working?
Still not seeing it. There you go.
Okay. Cool. And I'm going to start the slideshow. Okay, so I actually wanted to start with a stocking update. I thought you guys might like that information as well. So recently, this past Memorial Day weekend is a huge weekend and week leading up to the Memorial Day weekend for our hatcheries. They stocked over 46,000 trout at about 103 sites throughout North Georgia. So, a big thanks to John Lee Thompson, who's the stocking coordinator, and all the hardworking folks at our hatcheries for running trucks up and down the road all week to get our heavily stocked trout stream stocked for anglers. And, there might be some interest in what the effects of coronavirus were on the linear tailwater, because a lot of folks know from DNR's vantage point, we had 7 out of 10 of our traditional stocking sites were shut down. So what we did in response to that was reasoned that if anglers can't get to the tailwater to fish, we're not going to put those fish in. We certainly didn't want them to be wasted. And it actually worked out to kind of benefit the program as a whole, because with Burton Trout Hatchery being shut down, we have a limited amount of catchable trout that we can distribute throughout the state. So if there was a silver lining in coronavirus from DNR standpoint, that might be one of them, is that we were able to hold back some fish, do the closure of some of these stocking sites, and save them to stock later on. So as of May 11th, National Park Service reopened all of our stocking sites. Lower Pool Park opened up recently, so we're back to sort of 100% on linear tailwater. Let's see. Okay, so just wanted to give you guys a real brief view, and I'm sorry I'm having to move this little Zoom bar around. A real brief glance at what kind of data we're looking at traditionally on the linear tailwater. So we have 5 standardized sampling sites that we look at. We estimate relative abundance through our catch rates, and so we're typically catching a lot of small, around 8, 9, 10-inch brown trout, wild browns, and occasionally we run into a nice 12, 15, 18 pounder. But we're really working off this data to gauge relative abundance and what the population is doing. So we kind of followed the same method at Crayfish Creek. We set up sampling stations above Crayfish Creek and below Crayfish Creek. We were hoping for those to be around 15-minute sampling stations, but with the flow that we saw on March 7th at about 9,000 CFS, they ended up turning into 5-minute stations. And so this graph here just shows the species that we captured: brown trout, rainbow trout, some suckers, and bluegill, and their relative abundance. So on the y-axis here is actually a catch rate, catch per unit effort. So you can see we had really low occurrences, really low catches. Again, that was due to high flow. Sarah, Mark, and I went out in January prior to our sampling on March 7th, just to kind of scout the site, and this is the sort of species composition and catch rates that we saw that day. So this is just a example of what we would traditionally expect to see. Okay, so we got brown trout, rainbow trout, some suckers, bluegill, largemouth bass, yellow perch, Chattahoochee sculpins, red ear sunfish, green sunfish, and some small cyprinids. I think they were creek chubs. So, and that flow that day was 600 CFS. So you can sort of clearly see the difference in catch rates and species richness when the conditions are right for sampling. And these are just some pie graphs to sort of demonstrate that as well. So our catch rate at 600 CFS was more than twice the catch rate at 9,000. The catch rate in terms of kilograms per hour was actually more at 9,000 CFS, and that's really because we were only catching big fish. We weren't even able to capture some of our smaller species at 9,000 CFS. And then richness, which is just the number of unique species that we captured, was much higher, again, when we were sampling at 600 CFS under more ideal conditions. So not a lot we can really glean other than sort of our species compositions from our sampling on March 7th. But that's sort of the information we could gather from our boat electrofishing. And so then we did this backpack electrofishing activity, and this is a picture from that sampling effort. This is also just a species list of some potential species that we would expect to find in Crayfish Creek or other warm water streams in the Piedmont region. So this is a graph of the species and numbers that we collected that day. So we had creek chubs, yellowfin shiners, bluefin stone rollers, bluehead chubs, brown trout, green sunfish, and white suckers. And I have these little icons next to each fish to indicate if it's native, it's like a green house, like it's home where it's supposed to be. And if it's red with like a location marker, that means it's not native to the drainage. And then I have this is a yellowfin shiner. It's considered native, but there was some recent information presented that suggested it might not be native to the Chattahoochee River basin. So that's kind of to be determined. But so this just gives you an idea of our species abundance. We're basically dominated with creek chubs, yellowfin shiners, and we had single occurrences of brown trout, which was really neat to see, green sunfish, and white suckers. So using the IBI model, which basically looks at species richness and diversity and a number of other variables, we get this value, which is kind of what we're looking for to describe the overall characteristics of the stream based on these data. And so at a score of 32, that equates to a poor rating. So, and if you're curious as to what a poor rating is, these narratives here, the one on the left describes what a poor stream, how to sort of biologically describe that. So sampled by generalists, sunfish, lots of non-natives, an absence of intolerant species. So we look for things like darters, an absence of benthic fluvial specialists, poor growth rates, signs of disease, so on and so forth. And to contrast that, a score of excellent, so a stream that would be scored as excellent would have species in all different size classes, would have a lot of insectivorous cyprinids, a number of abundant individuals representing a balanced trophic structure, and we'd probably see a lot of more sensitive species in that composition. So, you know, to chalk it all up, we got to start somewhere, and not to say that we should eventually expect to get an excellent score for Crayfish Creek, but you know, there certainly is a possibility that that we may see these scores improve over time as we improve habitat. So, and that is all I have.
Great. Yeah.
Hunter, one more thing before you go. How about that Young of the Year brown trout?
Yeah, that was really neat to see. You know, it's kind of expected in some ways when we see, you know, the creek inundated with this river water, and it kind of makes sense to a degree because you have all this production clearly going on in the stream from a macroinvertebrate standpoint, and you have a lot of potential predation opportunities there in the creek. But it was really neat to see young brown trout, you know, occupying the creek, and that just speaks to how important the river and its tributaries are as a whole functioning unit, and it's not necessarily Crayfish Creek and then the Chattahoochee River.
Right. Yep. Awesome, Hunter. Well, hey, thanks so much for pulling that data together. And you know, as if folks are interested in that data, are you able to share what we found?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a really busy spring. You know, I was able to kind of put this together within the last couple days. So there's certain things I'd probably like to clean up, but I'll be happy to share this information with
Awesome.
you, and you guys can share it or however you'd like to do that.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, I think MPS, you know, may want that data as well. So we really appreciate, you know, you guys, you know, being a part of this project and the in-kind contributions that you guys are bringing to the table. So thanks so much. All right, let's switch gears. All right, so CRK. So we have the Chattahoochee River keeper Jason Olseth on the phone, as well as Jess Sterling. And, you know, our partnership with CRK is it's been a long journey. But really, you know, we think the next chapter is within the Cassie monitoring station. So Jason, I'll turn it over to you and Jess to talk a little bit about what the Cassie monitoring station is and what are the plans in the future.
Right. Well, thanks, Connor. And it's just me tonight. Jess has got 3 little ones and had her hands super full.
Awesome.
So, okay, let me share screen here.
All right, hold on. I gotta let you do that. So, all right, you should be able to now, Jason.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, I'll give you a brief overview of what these sensors are and what our role is in the project. But what we're talking about is real-time water quality monitoring through what we call Cassie, which is a Chattahoochee Aquatic Sensor System Integrated. And this has been a goal of ours for about 5 or 6 or 7 years now, to develop quality, low-cost water quality sensing devices that we can deploy on a larger scale. And TU, especially Upper Chattahoochee chapter, has been a great partner in helping us along the way as we developed a number of different prototypes and deployed them and learned from them. And we are now finally at a point where we have a very high quality unit that's at a very affordable price that we can deploy in, you know, some of these smaller tributaries and some of these areas where there's not monitoring taking place. So I'm sure a lot of you are aware that, you know, if you go by Medlock Bridge or some of these other gauges that the USGS, United States Geological Survey, has, those are really good water quality gauges, but they're very expensive. It costs about $50,000 per year to operate those, and it's just not feasible for us to implement them, you know, on a project like this. What these sensors do is bring that cost way down and actually make it a lot more portable to where we can deploy them in smaller tributaries like this. So basically what we're looking at is we're going to deploy one of these sensors in Crayfish Creek at the downstream portion of the project so that we can help monitor water quality throughout the length of the project and hopefully measure improvements throughout the life of the project and really give us, you know, measurable, tangible water quality data that we can use throughout the life and well into the future of the project. Those 2 components, one is this sensor here that actually goes in the water and is on a pipe that goes up and down that we can lift out to maintain or clean off. That stays in the creek itself all the time. And then that attaches to what we call the brains, which is essentially just a waterproof, double waterproof case that has a mic or a board, a battery, and a cellular network that relays this data in real time through a 3G data network every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, we get a reading of whatever sensors that we have deployed in the water itself. And then we have a solar panel that keeps that device charged, so we don't rely on electricity or anything like that. And for this particular unit, what we're looking at is 3 water quality parameters. First is temperature, which of course is very important for trout and all aquatic life. And that's the easiest one for us to measure. The second is electrical conductivity. So that's the water's ability to pass an electrical current and gives us an overall water quality indicator of any contaminants present or any pollutants present in that water body. And we'll establish a baseline of Crayfish Creek's baseline conductivity levels, and then we'll look at deviations from that baseline to determine if things are getting better or worse, or if there's any contaminants that are coming in, for example, stormwater runoff. And then the third parameter is turbidity. And that's going to be the biggest one, the most important one that we're going to be concerned about for this project, is because we have a lot of creek bank erosion that's putting a lot of mud and a lot of silt into Crayfish Creek, and that goes into the Chattahoochee, and that has a huge impact on our fishery. So what we ideally would like to see here is we're going to establish this baseline of turbidity during heavy flows, heavy rain events, and then we'll have the ability to determine if these creek bank stabilization projects and preventing the erosion is having a measurable impact or measurable reduction of turbidity and siltation that is going through the creek and then going into the Chattahoochee River. And once this site is set up, it'll be on a map available to the public. So anybody with this link, and we'll put it on our website. You guys can put it on your website, post it on Facebook, however you want to share it. And you'll be able to click on any of our active sites, and including this one, and then you'll get the data, which every 15 minutes, you'll be able to observe what the temperature was, what the conductivity was, what the turbidity. And then this saves it on an Excel spreadsheet that anybody can go and download. And if something does happen to that cellular network, all of the data is also saved on a data card at the box itself. So we won't lose any data. If this website crashes, for example, we can go pull that card and pull, the last 3 months of data or whatever the timeline is off of the card. And as far as the timeline right now on getting this deployed, we were getting our final parts in, and we're ready to go in about, second week of March. And we all know what happened then. So the CRNRA was shut down. As of right now, the park is open to the public, but we're still not doing any research, and we're working with the Park Service, and we're going to be talking with them next week to try to figure out a timeline on when we can expect to be able to get back in the park to install water quality sensors and do research type level monitoring throughout the park. And this is not the only site that's been affected for us. The bacteria alert program, you guys follow that, has also been suspended. A number of our other water quality stations have also been suspended. We are quite anxious to get those up and going. But as soon as we get the green light, this one is going in, and when it's up and running, we'll send that link out to you guys, and you can start monitoring the data. So that's all I've got, except for a kid trip.
Nice.
That was last week, downstream, upstream Medlock Bridge. So trying to keep that mud out of there to protect them beautiful browns.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. Thanks so much to everything you do and the Riverkeeper does. We really appreciate it.
Y'all have been a great partner. And sorry we're losing you, Connor, but I'm sure we'll see you around.
Yeah, I won't be president, but I will be involved. So
okay,
I won't let this one just go away, because I put so much time into this with everyone, and it's definitely something that I want to continue to volunteer with and stay involved with. So I'll come back from Charlotte to make some visits to Crayfish Creek.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
That
Danny.
was great, Jason. Thanks so much.
All right, Danny, you wanna take over for the other speakers?
Sure. So the next up, we have the design team. So this includes Dr. John Calabria. He's a faculty member in the UGA College of, it's not environmental design. I'm gonna get it wrong, but it's he'll correct me. But it's Emily Rogers is the student that's been working on this project, working on the design. And she's going to be presenting a little bit about the work she's done, some of the concepts she's got. So really looking forward to that. And then we've got Jay Shelton, who is a faculty member in Warnell School of Ecology at UGA. They've all been kind of working on the design together. And this is really important because this basically feeds into what we're going to actually get done. So let's see if I can match. Let's see, where's Emily? Emily, can you hear us?
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. And then, so where's Jay? Let's see, and Dr. Calabria.
He's got to dial in.
Okay. Yeah, so Dr. Calabria is not on there, but where's?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, okay. There you are.
Surprise. Yeah, and I think if Shelton doesn't, he'll rejoin. I think he was having some laptop issues. So
Yeah.
But yeah, we could.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can start with just sharing my screen too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me grab that real quick, and I will make you the host.
Awesome.
All right.
Jay's on.
Now you should be able to share your screen, Emily.
All right. Hello. Yes, I am Emily, and like Danny said, we're a part of the design. So let's dive into that. Let's see. Can you actually? Where's my presentation? All right. Can everyone see it? Is that good?
Yep. Looks
Okay.
great.
So this past semester, I jumped into this project not knowing, well, I pretty much knew slim to nothing about stream design, but with the help of Dr. Shelton and Dr. Calabria, who are also on the call, I can officially say I know a lot more than I did before. But to help understand how to best help Crayfish Creek, we had to understand what was wrong first. And one of the best ways to go about this was to identify and look at reference streams and reaches across the region as a mechanism of calculating and categorizing what stresses were on Crayfish Creek. What you're looking at right here in the big expanse is kind of the end product of my past month's work. And so this is an ideal world. It would be what the profile of Crayfish Creek could and should look like. But unfortunately, we do not live in a perfect world. And for this reason, we have kind of implemented a multi-step enhancement project to establish a higher sinuosity, a wider and lower floodplain, and improved habitat. And as you can see here, in the existing channel, Crayfish Creek is mostly straight with kind of a long curve. Just kind of one long string. It doesn't have the rounds and curves that it needs. So while I was doing work this past semester, I helped to calculate where the curves should be in the stream, depending on the location it was in reference to the Chattahoochee, whether it was at the mouth or towards the end. We were able to utilize a lot of GIS topographic layers, as well as data directly from Gwinnett County. One of the main things that helped was taking trips to the field before COVID happened. This is a photo of Dr. Calabria and one of my fellow students in the field. But we'll get to that transect later. Now, and this is like the proposed model of what it would look like. It's actually from the angle behind it. But as you can see here, we've removed the culverts, we've lowered the floodplain and established point bars, which are called out with the gray marks. Those are images of the site. Obviously, there would be vegetation planted, and it would look similar to the other photo, but for viewing sake, it's a little bit less, or I don't have quite as many plants placed. In the location that is partnered with the transect, there's a stormwater drainage location, and in the similar sense, we have lowered the floodplain, planted a community of native vegetation, and as I'm also calling out an arrow for access points for the public and the community to access the stream. This is the transect brought to life. Everything that's pink and orange represents what will be taken away, and everything that's planted is what will be there. For the sake of the demonstration, it's not quite to scale. Everything's very vertical, so it still looks like the banks are really steep, but in fact they're not. That's just how it had to look. And then how we were planning on going about this, it's with the permit, we have 500 feet of reconstruction, and we want to establish the floodplain, like I stated earlier, lowering it so the stream has access to it, because we can't make Chattahoochee rise in a sense. But Crayfish Creek is under a lot of stress due to the hydro peaking of Beaufort Dam, as well as a high percentage of its watershed being impervious. Another way to help that would be to establish a riparian border around it to improve the habitat and the community, partnered with the design. But one of the best ways, and the only way that any of this is possible, is with the volunteers. So over the course of the summer, I'm really excited to work with everyone as we finalize the steps and get closer to bringing this to life. So thank you again. And if you have any questions, I know that there'll be time at the end to answer those.
Yes, excellent. Thank you so much, Emily. Thanks for your hard work putting this together. There's a lot going on within this project, within these designs. These are huge data files that she's sharing with us. I mean, you can see all the different tree species that are in there, the diversity, the slopes. You know, this is kind of the long-term grand plan, and this is pretty exciting stuff. Dr. Calabria, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Sorry, just caught me in mid-bite. It was like I was at a restaurant, whatever that was. No, I think it was a lot of fun, and Emily certainly up for the task, and we'll take the conceptual design, refine that a bit more. And then I know we're going to talk a little bit about permitting, but that's the big next step. And then once we understand some of the constraints of permitting, I think Emily will be able to spend some time moving through that process and seeing what we can do to improve habitat and water quality, and keep your keep your young people happy downstream.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both. This is fantastic stuff. So we're really excited. So now we're going to move on to our last speaker, and that is going to be Annie Couch. She is a hydrologist that works for the National Park Service. The National Park Service is the one that actually owns this property. So when we submit our 404 application to the Army Corps of Engineers, they are the official applicant, and they are the ones submitted in on our behalf. And the whole Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area group has been fantastic throughout this process, helping us get everything together, and helping us plan to submit this application and move on to do some great things on the stream. So with that, I'm going to let Annie take it away. It says you should be unmuted. Nope, we can't hear you, Annie.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, got you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and share my screen if possible.
Yep. So hold on just a second, and you can share your screen now.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks for all the updates that all the other presenters provided. There's, as everyone has said, a great collaboration, and we're very excited to be involved. I just wanted to give a brief update on the park, where we are right now. So as it was mentioned in the call earlier, as of May 11th, the park has entered phase 1 of reopening. And so that's really just our outdoor spaces are open, so our parking lots and trails are open to the public, but other activities and other facilities are still closed, and we're not quite to phase 2. I think at the absolute earliest, it would be 3 weeks before we'd even be able to enter phase 2. So that is kind of the status of where we are now, that we're hoping as things progress, we can begin to slowly reopen more. And I know what y'all are mainly interested in is the permitting updates. So the special use permit has been issued to Trout Unlimited from the park to do this project. The NEPA and NHPA, so that's the National Environmental Policy Act and the National Historic Preservation Act, have both been complete, as well as the review for the Endangered Species Act. And we've also done consultations with the state wildlife biologists and aquatic biologists for state listed species. So we have met those requirements. And as far as the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, this project will fall under a general permit. And so we've consulted with the environmental specialist, with EPD, and are covered. So these are all the steps we've checked off and are passed through the permitting process. And things that we are still working on and are kind of our next steps are getting the research permit issued to Riverkeeper for the CAFI system. And we are hopeful that we'll be able to get that finished by the end of this week, so Riverkeeper can get out and start collecting that baseline data on the stream. And then, as Danny mentioned, we have also worked on submitting a Army Corps permit for Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. And so that packet has been complete and submitted once we got the final design from Dr. Shelton and Emily and Dr. Calabria, and thank y'all so much for that. That's hugely helpful. So that's been submitted. It is currently under a 10-day federal agency review period that will close on Monday, June 1st. And once that closes, assuming we don't have any major comments or feedback, we are expecting that the permit will be issued to us on or before June 18th. So we're at the end of the tunnel for our Section 404 permit. And then our last and final step will be our erosion and sediment control. And we've been working with both Michael Berry in the watershed protection branch of EPD and Ken Landers with Sugar Hill on obtaining that. So that's a very quick and dirty overview of the permits and where we are in the process on them. But we are towards the end of all the permits.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and Annie's been such a big help for this whole project. So Annie, just a shout out and thanks so much for all you've done. This stuff is not easy and takes a lot of time and it's very technical. And we can't thank you enough for everything you've done, as well as all the support from National Park Service. So we really appreciate it. And we really appreciate the partnership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that goes both ways, and we are so sad to see you leave the Atlanta area, but are grateful you're going to stay involved in this project, Connor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Danny. So we've gotten through all the speakers, Annie, Emily, Jay, Dr. Calabria, Hunter, Jason, all-star lineup. I mean, this is like an all-star team, and it just there's a lot of red tape, but it takes like a team like this to get this stuff done. So extremely happy and a lot of momentum going in. So should we open it up or I guess, Danny, do you want to talk about next steps real quick while we're all on the line and then jump into questions?
Yeah, so we've got a lot planned. Emily's going to be busy this summer. Basically we're taking this, from the design step. She's already done some great stuff this semester as part of her classwork, working on that design. Now it's time to, let's get on the ground, get boots on the ground, and start trying to figure out how do we get this started. I mean, obviously all that is contingent on us getting the permit. It's also contingent on the park opening back up and things like that. But there's things that we can do in the meantime. We're going to start, once we have our design, and which we do now, we can start talking to contractors and getting quotes and comparing quotes. We can, now that we have a list of trees that we can, we know what we need to source, we can go out and start talking to nurseries and seeing what quotes they might be able to provide. So really kind of all the logistics of making the project a reality is what we're going to be working on the next couple of months. Once we're able to kind of get back out there, one of our big next kind of group endeavors that is going to involve all the volunteers is, we got to get out and we got to remove some of those invasive species. So that was some of the original ideas of what we wanted to work on, was, not only do we want to restore the bank, but we also want to restore the riparian corridor. So there's tons of invasive species that need to be removed. And then we're going to be planting back with native vegetation. So, that's kind of for our volunteers. I know we've got a large group of people that are excited about this project, that are listening in on this call, that, are eager to jump in and help. Well, that's probably the first area that we're going to start doing. Again, that is going to be contingent upon the COVID-19 situation and social distancing and organizing and all that kind of thing. But that would be the first kind of group activity I think we could have. Annie, do you have any comment on that? Okay. But so anyway, so that's kind of what I see as our next step. Working with Emily, we also want to, we have plans to expand this beyond this project. And so, you know, we've been working on additional grants. We're going to continue looking for additional grants. We're going to continue looking for additional sources of revenue, financial support for this project. So we're going to start reaching out to some of the local municipalities, Gwinnett County, the city of Sugar Hill, things like that, and try to see if we can spark some interest from them to contribute. You know, once we kind of have a plan, we feel that people are going to be a lot more, you know, willing to step up and say, this is something we're interested in supporting. So now that we, you know, hopefully we'll have our permit really soon, we're hoping to really kind of expand this out, continue with grants, and seek out additional financial partners. So yeah, with that, do you have anything else to add there, Connor?
I mean, the only last thing I wanted to add, I think this just it's kind of icing on the cake with everything that's gone on is the kind of the essence of Trout Unlimited and Embrace the Stream is we want to have like a grassroots movement. And so we really think Crayfish Creek was a grassroots movement. I mean, going back to the very beginning, you know, we wanted to do a big creek, and then we moved to Crayfish Creek because it was just more sizable. It was just something more achievable. And, you know, Crayfish Creek wasn't even named before we kind of came in. And so, with the involvement with all the different partners and all the in-kind contributions, this is really where we are. If you look at the amount of money spent, it's not much at all. It's been, very minimal, and we plan to continue that forward, utilize grant money, utilize in-kind contributions, and we feel like the fruit from all of this is going to be really great, and it's already kind of showing, with Emily's in-kind and UGA's in-kind contribution. So that's just one thing I just want to throw out there is, like, no one's really getting paid so much to do this stuff. It's really just, it's all volunteer, and then all these different nonprofits that are helping out and government agencies that are helping out, that are all really collectively working together at the grassroots level. And so I think that's just really important to highlight, and it's kind of like the DNA of the project, that it's all been, in kind. So we can't thank you all enough. And also thanks so much for the support, financial support that we did for that 1 week fundraiser. So friends, family, all donated. So that's the last thing I wanted to just, emphasize about this project.
Yeah, great. So yeah, so at this point, we want to just open it up to the audience. This is grassroots. This is all about volunteers. This was an update to show you where we are, where we hope to go in the near future. But we also hope that there's some ideas from the audience. This is our project as a groups. You saw the partners on the initial slide. There's a lot of people involved, and so if you have an idea or you have a way you want to contribute, let us know. We'd love to have you. This is all about everyone. So yeah, we'll open it up, and if you have any questions or want to post a comment, just do it in the chat box. Right now we're looking at 46 participants. So if I opened it up, everyone's mic, it would get pretty crazy pretty quick. So that's probably not going to be the best way to do it. But I think Bruce said he'll moderate if people want to type in questions. So. I'm not seeing anything yet, but so one thing we mentioned, or that we didn't get to talk, was Sarah Baker. When we talked to DNR, just wanted to talk to have Sarah have an opportunity to say a few words if she wanted to. So if Sarah, you're still on, wanted to give you the opportunity to just say hi to everyone and kind of just provide any comments that if you weren't able to do that earlier.
Thanks, Danny. Yeah, hi everyone. I was hired right on in early December. So it's been really cool to be a part of everything. You kind of got the ball rolling, and just being here on the fish side of things. And I really am enthusiastic about just all of the different types of ways that we're going to be monitoring some of the changes. We've heard from a lot of the experts here, and going forward at how those things will change. So I anticipate there to be more like increased species diversity in this creek several years from now. And I'm just really hopeful, and it really excites me that there's so many people gathered together to accomplish a single goal. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you
so much,
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, I'll start off with a question, and I know it sounds weird that I'm going to ask a question, but I'm just going to ask a question. And so this is going to be to Annie and if Jason's still on the phone, maybe, what does the future of this site look like? Not so much from a demonstration site for the Riverlands project, but more so from a development perspective, because we know that the Chattahoochee River is a fragile ecosystem, and typically with more development, you have more impervious surfaces. And that water temperature increases, the silt increases. So what's this kind of area looking like, the Sugar Hill area looking like? And what are some threats that are kind of posing to this ecosystem?
There, am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're good, Jason.
Yeah, I haven't done a full watershed survey of the creek, but I do remember, if that Kroger shopping center that came in just up the street off of Highway 20, caused a lot of problems. It had several developers throughout the project, and there's a lot of pollution, a lot of sedimentation issues. And actually that site went through a series of enforcement actions with the Army Corps of Engineers a few years ago. So we will definitely have our eyes on the watershed, and it's fairly small. And I think that is one of the biggest developments that we're going to see in there. And most of the rest of the development is, currently single family residential. So unless we see somebody going in and buying up a bunch of houses and redeveloping, I don't think there's going to be a tremendous amount of new development. But again, I'll have to look back and do a watershed survey of that.
Annie, did you want to add anything to that? Okay. So I think we've got quite a few questions rolling in. Bruce, did you want to take over that and kind of read the question and then point them to the person to respond?
Sure. Shay kind of asked a question about budget level estimates for construction, and I responded back saying we've yet to have finalized designs on the 404 permit for us to have any kind of real numbers to be able to submit to contractors. But as soon as that comes in, it is next on our agenda to start working and building those estimates.
Yeah, I would add there too, one of the things we plan to do this summer is to get quotes from like 4 or 5 different contractors. So we'll kind of see, different, based on what needs to be done, what are some different estimates to get, a very competitive bid that, with a reputable contractor.
And then Dan Anaguardo asked about helping out, and the other big question is the socialization or the physical distancing and what that could mean. So maybe Annie, do you have any future perspective in that direction?
Can people hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Good. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we're still in phase 1, and we are not allowing, large work groups at this point. And that is going to really just depend on how this COVID situation develops. And I know the park, and I know to you, highest priority is keeping all the volunteers safe. So I'm sorry I don't have a great answer on when we would be allowed to resume work days, but that is something that we are constantly monitoring, and we have tons of volunteer groups that are ready to get on the ground. And as soon as we know something, we'll share that with y'all.
And Joe, thank you, Annie. Joe asked a question about the timeline of things, and again, we're just getting started to be able to start building timelines. Part of that was the park closures, and also in addition to getting the permitting. So once we have the permitting, we'll be able to start building some real timelines. But even then, there's a lot of different people that are coordinating with that. So it'll take some time to work out a projected timeline. But we are supposed to be having things wrapped up within the 2 years. Am I correct on that, Danny?
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to add there. It's like, so just keep in mind, everyone, that this is a big stream that our master plan is to restore the whole thing. Well, we know for a fact that right now we don't have the money to do the whole thing. We know our permit is only going to allow us to restore up to 500 feet of the stream bank. We've got a lot of plans, but basically we're hoping to start small, do a couple sites within this permit, do them really well, and then hopefully people will see that as a model that they're willing to invest and support, that can go for the whole stream, and then hopefully other tributaries after that. So the answer is, our grant funding was for 2 years from Embrace the Stream for TU. So we have to, we need to complete some part of the project. Obviously, COVID-19 comes into play here. I'm sure that the TU National would understand that, we're missing some time for construction here. But we will be doing some projects as soon as the park opens back up, and we're hoping to meet that 2-year deadline. And then after that, we hope to just expand and work on the rest of the stream as funds become available, and new partners come on board. So
yeah, and I would just add to that too. From a timeline perspective, we're kind of in the middle. If you go back in time, some things that have happened, which we've already mentioned, was grant funding is achieved, grassroots fundraising raised $23,000 in a week. CRK built a Cassie monitoring station. They're ready to install it. It just needs to be installed. The design has been almost completed, and then the permitting is at the final stages. Those all are that's big meat on the bone, that you're taking off. Those take not only technical skills, but time and data. So data was obtained through Gwinnett County. They provided us LiDAR data on the stream, and that just takes, someone physically going up there, picking up the data, inserting it into the computer, downloading it, and analyzing that data. And so I think we're coming down the hill now, I would say, and now it's just laying down the final steps to get the construction and the plants and everything. And as to Danny's point, it's going to be a phased approach. We can't really restore this whole creek in 1 week or 2 weeks. It's going to be multi-step. And so, I think the timeline is, there's still some things that need to happen in the future, but a lot has already happened to this point.
Okay, Philip and Michael have asked some really good questions. Jay, are you still on the phone here?
Yeah, I can help out if need be.
Okay. There was a couple questions about, is there any future about the mouth of the creek for this project? And, we've kind of looked at some things, and that is a strong 6-number budget to be able to address those kind of areas of the creek. So that's why we're starting further in. They're obtainable and functional, and then hopefully over time, if we get more funding, we'll keep working our way all the way out to the Chattahoochee. And then Michael kind of asked about the destruction that occurs in a downpour versus the slow, steady rain in the imperishable upstream habitat. But also, we've also come to the understanding of the tide that happens with full releases from the Chattahoochee.
Yeah, and it turns out Dr. Shelton's muted, so he might have some things to add as well.
Oh, wow. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought maybe it was intentional, that somebody had a plan that involved me being muted for the entire thing, which I can certainly understand why you might want to do that. Just real quickly, I can't help but do this, forgive me, but I think Connor made a really great point, and I can't overemphasize this. The permitting alone, that process, that 404 permit, it took us 2 years to obtain a permit. And the only reason we're this far along right now is because of all the work that Annie has been doing behind the scenes. And oh, by the way, in the process, she also had a beautiful, healthy baby, which she birthed. So congratulations to Annie. And but she has been keeping this thing moving forward despite a lot of constraints. And so we are indebted to her in a huge way because that permitting process is so critical, but so time consuming. And then the other questions associated, I know there was one associated with stormwater, and it's really extraordinary. As Bruce mentioned, going in, we really thought that we were going to be exclusively focused on the stormwater issues. And granted, those stormwater issues are really big, and we have been able to see, in fact, we've got video we could share of just what an effect heavy winter rains have on stormwater issues on that creek. But we kind of describe it as a tidal bore, like Bruce alluded to, when the well, actually Hunter got to be in a boat when it happened, but when they're generating with both turbines there at the dam, there's this enormous surge. This is enormous tidal surge that comes up that river every single time they generate. So those peaking flows, which are quite frequent at certain times of the year, have an incredible effect. So there's a real double whammy that goes on in this and other streams in that upper Chattahoochee area. And I know Jason has seen this time and time again, but the double whammy is the tidal surge that comes basically when the stream reverses direction and flows upstream on a highly frequent high frequency. There's that surge, which of course contributes to the erosion issues, and then in addition to that, there is the stormwater issues. And we're looking at an area where if you go into some of our GIS layers, you'll see that there is a Gwinnett County sewer system that's relatively close to the stream that has a bearing on this project. There's construction upstream that has a bearing on this project. And then there's sort of a legacy. The old culverts, we think, actually, after looking at the high resolution of the LiDAR layer, Dr. Calabria noticed kind of a pinch point where he thinks those culverts might have actually crossed the stream at one point, or excuse me, been upstream at one point, but they were poorly designed, under-designed, and blew out, and basically were forced or washed downstream over time. There's some other legacy stormwater issues in that area that we're starting to see just a lot. It's almost as if you can watch erosion taking place during periods of when the ground is saturated in the winter and you've got these continuous rains that result in a lot of overland flow. So it is a real, it's just a real challenging area. But in an area like that, as Connor pointed out, if we can demonstrate we have the capacity with all the contributions from all the different stakeholders, we have the capacity to affect some real change in a creek like that, then I think that's really, really a powerful and informative activity. So a lot of education going on here, a demonstration of what's possible, and at the same time using it as a tool to recruit and to to mobilize a larger and larger group of stakeholders.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah. The other, the other tributaries of the Chattahoochee River, MPS, Jason, Chris Galley, and some other folks, brought up, Hall Creek's getting hammered, through, based on development, James Creek, Swanee Creek. So these are all kind of the larger tributaries that, where, some work could be done in the future. And so, this is just one step to take. And so, looking into the future, eventually these other tributaries that are bigger are going to need to be, thought through and solutioned, because you can almost see as a big rain occurs, waters or sediments just oozing into the Chattahoochee River. I mean, you can just see it. It's just a big stain coming in. And so the mouth, I think, gets hammered. That was the original question by Philip. The mouth gets hammered and then all the way up and through there as that water rises. And so as that's the biggest area that gets hit, it's probably the hardest to restore, just because that water is coming in so quickly and coming out so fast. So that's probably the last, maybe the last piece of the restoration work on Crayfish Creek, if that ever does get restored. Philip, I know you are on the line. Do we want to unmute Philip for a second? I know he's a big stakeholder. So Philip is the president of what used to be called the Chattahoochee Parks Conservancy. It's now called the Chattahoochee National Parks Conservancy. And their mission is connect, protect your river. And they also help with they're the Friends group for the National Park Service, CRNRA. So Philip, are you unmuted? Do you want to say a few words?
You're
Oh, can't
Phil
hear
Hodges.
you. Yeah, it says I should. Yeah, Phil Hodges.
You got it.
There we go.
Is that working?
Yeah, there you go.
Connor, thank you. Thank you
Hey,
very
Phil.
much. You didn't need to acknowledge me, but just thanks. It's the Chattahoochee National Park Conservancy, because it exists for one reason only, and that's to work with the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, which of course is part of our national park system. And it's a great project. We love it. And I'm the one asking, well, if we can do it here, what about all the other tributaries? And what about the mouth where it gets the bore tide? And I know it's time and money and permits, and we'll be working on this after I'm long gone, and Annie is still working on permits. But I hope this is the start of a long, long list of rehabilitation projects.
Emily needs some job security, so she's in agreement too.
Thanks for your partnership, Philip.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Kind of one last question. Mitch asked about future development and impact, and I think Jason kind of answered that question a little bit about looking backwards with Kroger and any kind of runoff and other issues like that. So hopefully, we'll be able to get in front of that in the future, and kind of meet with these people that are doing development, and maybe being able to show them to do things more smartly to help that impact or prevent that impact. And then Jim had a question about mentioned the two locations that are Project A and Project B. And I don't remember the feet. Danny, can you add some real world numbers to that for us?
You say that again. So like the Project A being what we're planning to do right now.
I think it's basically the location sites for where we plan to do the restoration work first.
And So I'm trying to think of how I would explain this without a map. I'm sure if Emily pulled up her thing again, we could do that. But we've flagged it off previously. There's a 60-foot section that we flagged off, and then there's about a 40-foot section that we flagged off that we were wanting to take a look at first, and then again, kind of expanding out as our money and our permit allows. So
Yeah, how about we talk a little bit about that one? So there's the tributary that feeds into the Chattahoochee River, and then there's it's like an off channel. It's basically a creek that feeds into Crayfish Creek, and there's a drain pipe. And John Calabria, you might be able to speak to this, but we actually just went there, and one day we did a walkthrough, and we noticed what was happening is that creek that's feeding into Crayfish Creek, it's basically runoff, and it seems like maybe some spring water. It's supposed to come down the slope across the Gwinnett County easement and down into the ground. There's a drain, so it goes in the ground. It goes underneath the little walkway, and it feeds into this pipe, and the pipe goes all the way down, and it feeds into Crayfish Creek. So by design, it's supposed to divert the water down the drain underneath the four-wheeler trail and into Crayfish Creek, and it's all somewhat clean water, but the design is set up so that water does not go over the top. What we found is the day we went out there, the drain was completely covered with mud, sticks, and what was happening was it was basically creating it was just going straight over the four-wheeler trail and then down the banks. And the banks are just, you can just see the roots of the trees just sticking out, and just the banks are just eroding as we were there, they're eroding. So we all grabbed sticks, and we were, trying to unclog the drain. And finally we got the drain unclogged. And so, what we found there is then the water went underneath the four-wheeler trail and through the pipe and into the creek. So the eroding kind of stopped like within minutes. So Dr. Calabria, do you have any thoughts on that, that specific area? I know we've talked about that being a problem area for the creek and the active eroding occurring whenever those rains occur and then the drain gets clogged.
Sure. Yeah, I think the culvert you mentioned was probably put in to help protect the sanitary sewer that runs parallel to the creek. So we'd have to understand some of the constraints and see what that is. But if we could keep the flow as overland flow and then have some kind of cascade back down to the proper confluence, I think that would probably be a better way to go. That might be kind of outside of the current permit and outside of the current budget. But one of our summer tasks will be to see if we can find some external funding, and then we can look at that more carefully. But I think the idea of getting that water, if we kept it overland and we could still protect the necessary infrastructure, that we might be able to step that water back down into the channel. And might be we could reduce some of the pipe or avoid the pipe. We just have to understand the constraints on the sanitary. But yeah, the two spots to answer the earlier question were more or less, there was the existing dual culverts that are washed into a certain spot in the channel, and flow goes around those. That was one of the areas identified, I believe. And then upstream of that, there was another area that was eroding towards the sanitary sewer. So that would be the second area that we definitely focus the summer efforts on. But I don't think there's anything to keep us from dreaming big about what some other things that we could do out there while we're thinking about this.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. So we've got a couple more kind of questions and comments here. Hunter, one thing that's pretty interesting that Hunter just put in the chat section is that he was actually at Crayfish Creek today, and the drain pipe was functioning properly, but was beginning to collect debris again. So, it's just a matter of time, unless someone's going to go out there and constantly clean off the drain. you know, we got to make this fix because it is substantial, the amount of erosion at the site. So excited to get boots on the ground. Connor, do you have anything left to add?
No, I think we're good. If there's no more questions, I think we can close it down and start to close the meeting down. It's been about an hour and a half, and we heard from all the speakers, and you guys have gotten an update. So I would just say, going from here, if you guys would like any of the presentations, reach out to me, president@ucctu.org, or to Danny. Danny, do you want to provide your email?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat box right now. Yeah.
Okay. And just let us know. We're happy to share. And again, we'll be providing updates through our news lines, through Facebook, through Instagram, and then keeping you guys up to speed on where we are with work days. So we really appreciate everyone's support, and we really believe in this project, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So we really appreciate it, and we'll all hear from you guys soon. You'll hopefully hear from us soon.
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks to all our speakers tonight. I'm really excited about it. So awesome work.
All right, guys, stay safe.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, over now.
Bye-bye.